Hello, and welcome to episode 9 of the Evolutionary Edge of Eros podcast. So, I'm coming to you today with the desire to talk a little bit about some womb work that I've been doing with some of my clients and, some of the superpowers that I see around the womb and sort of the possibilities of what we can access with these energies. And I'm really bringing more of like, I guess, a mystic lens. Like, this is not an anatomy lens or there's a lot of different ways that I've seen people work with the womb. So there's like the womb gates, you've got like the gates of like devotion and gratitude, and they all move up through the yoni and through the labia to the cervix. That's one way of working with the womb. And the other way that I've seen people work with the womb is like the earth womb, the cosmic womb, and like the ethereal womb. And so this is sort of a different way of looking at it, and maybe more of a practical way. I mean, it's definitely been practical in the way that I've seen clients bring it to me. And it's really based off of what I have seen women coming with and the problems that they're journeying with. And then I don't always work with the womb as the sort of solution or the way to work with the embodiment of the challenges that they're coming up against. But recently, I've experienced a lot of more people coming to me with these kind of challenges and seeing that the womb and the womb work that we do together is really what's creating solutions for them. So I want to share with you these three superpowers that I've been seeing of the womb. And the first one is shape shifting with Shakti. And really, this is just talking about this concept that is like the womb is like an empty space, right? It's a void, it's an openness. And when we're connecting with that openness inside of the body, we have the capacity to let through archetypes, energies, senses, feelings, like, and usually when we're working with that, it's not like some sort of psychological knowing of like, okay, now I'm going to embody this part of the feminine, or I'm going to embody, the dark femme, or I'm going to embody the seductress, or I'm going to embody the wild woman. Like, it's not a mental knowing of what's coming through. It's more of a meeting in the empty space inside of your womb, but also meeting in the empty space between you and whoever you're sitting with. So this is something that I actually came across as well when I was working with the self-pleasure modality, because I would sit in front of men and women and have this experience of like, oh, if I show this side of me, they're going to have more access to um, more of their sexuality, more of who they actually deeply are. And it was also like working on the kind of the understanding of polarities, right? So it's like if somebody is always stuck in the people pleaser, they're likely to attract somebody who's more in the take energy. And so if I started to track that maybe they were a people pleaser, then I would then sit deeper into the more of the receptive pole, more of that people pleasing kind of energetic, and really invite their take energy. Or other times I'd actually do it the other way around, where I would embody the take energy, show them how that is inside of their body, and then they were able to access more of them for themselves. And I, again, wasn't doing this through like, oh, this is what this person needs, and I can see this is who they are. It's like, no, um, there was no data inside of like who they were on a mental level. This was all just like an experience that I was having through my body. And I'd be like, oh, this part of me is wanting to come online. And I'd tune in, and I would feel like, oh, yeah, this is something that's going to help this, them access deeper realms of their own sexuality. So, really, what I see is that, women that have like deeply embodied their sexuality, what they're working with is that sense of the capacity to actually pull forward whatever is really true in between them and their client, in between them and their partner, in between them and their lover, like whoever is showing up in front of them. And they're not doing it from this place of like, I'm going to use psychology and manipulation to seduce whatever it is that I want to me. They're actually working with something that I find is a little deeper, and that is this experience of being able to just tune into the subtle vibration that's happening inside of their womb, sit on that edge of the unknown, not need to know what's coming and not need to understand what's coming, and actually just letting that come through them. And I see that the women that have access to this, they have like a lot of range inside of their sexuality. They're not afraid of their power. They're not afraid of their seduction. They're not afraid of their deep feminine gifts, because and they're also like have a lot of access to beauty and radiance and at any age, because they're not utilizing I don't know, like plastic surgery to bolster their maiden, so they can stay inside of this experience of like, oh, well, youth, if I have my youth, then I will be a sexually desired person. What they're working with is the capacity to actually feel more of what's happening inside of them, and more of what's happening inside of the empty space between them and somebody else, and actually calling that forward. And that is like that, if when you talk about like ultimate feminine power, ultimate feminine sexuality, that goes beyond these ideas and constructs of like to be a sexually desired woman or a high value woman that we keep seeing inside of the pop culture on the internet nowadays. It actually goes beyond those ideas of needing to be young and stereotypically attractive as far as the status quo desires, big boobs or big lips or a small waist or a big bum, whatever the things are that we deem to be attractive inside of societal norms. Like all of that goes out the window when we have access to this place inside of the womb that can call forward life, that can call forward like the truth of a moment, because attraction lives so far beyond that space. And I've had men sit in front of me and say, this woman, like, she's 10, 15, 20 years older than me, and yet she seems to have a hold over my sexuality in a way that I can't explain. And for me, that is how I would explain it, is that capacity for them to actually recognize that they're calling upon like the divine, they're calling upon the Shakti that lives beyond their sense of the human. They're pulling into a wider pool of the feminine in the collective. They're calling upon truth that lives inside of a space that is not logical. And really, eros, attraction, all of that stuff lives so far beyond the logic. And when a woman has access to that and she learns to work with that, something really potent actually awakens inside of her, because she's no longer in an experience of I've had women come to me and say, like, when I'm on a date, I'm looking to see if I'm weighing up me against them. I'm working out to see if that how much power they have. What is the disparity? Are they more attractive than me? Like really just like making these equations around their worth. And it's a very bizarre concept, but it's actually a way of the world sees like life and dating. It's very much like, a man is powerful if he has money, success, he's 6 foot or he's got a six pack or whatever. And a woman is successful if she has, if she's slim and she's, what else she needs to be, like beautiful and, I don't know, she needs to bear children or something, like there's like these ideas inside of the world of what you need to be. And what I'm speaking to is the power of sexuality to actually override these indoctrined ideas that are actually very new as well, and they're ever changing over like centuries. Like what is attractive in the status quo right now, as an example, like tanned skin is a sign of wealth now, because we're like, oh, this person must have traveled, they must have access to funds, which makes them more attractive. Whereas you go back to like, I don't know, like Victorian era or something, it's like pale skin, because then that showed that they didn't work in the fields, So it's like all of these things are always ever changing. And what I'm speaking to, I believe, is not ever changing in that way, because I think that sexuality and moving through this, being able to pull through whatever is really true between you and another human, is always going to outweigh the ideas of society as we know it in this moment. So that's the superpower of that one. And I've seen that women that need access to this, often they feel a little bit stuck in their masculine, or they feel a little bit stuck in the 3D realm of like the mundane, and they don't have access to that magic. So sometimes they come to me and we start to like cultivate the subtle realms and actually open up to like the power of expression ultimately. So that's one way that starts to show up. I've also seen women that want to like have a knowing inside of them that they're deeply afraid of. Those women often start to work with this portal of like shapeshifting with the Shakti as well. And yeah, and I've seen once they recognize that they are none of these archetypes and they are all of them, like they really start to understand the power of their sexuality. And they're also, I guess this comes into the next one. So the next one, second superpower, is transmutation. And transmutation is working with those energies of like the Shakti coming in, but often what we're doing is like working with how they externally come into us. So if you receive a transmission of something in your life, that could be through having a sexual partner, or you might have this experience of like somebody in your life is really perhaps toying with you or fucking with you in some way. What you're really working with in that experience is learning to actually like let the energy come through into the womb space, into that empty void-like space that is very fertile and letting it move through. And when a woman is starting to work with like the shape shifting of Shakti energies, and she starts to maybe like be able to embody certain deities and goddesses and bigger energies like that, she might actually have the experience of like not knowing what is her and what is the transpersonal energy that's moving through her. And so what we'll start to do then is start to really call forward the other parts. And I would say this is an experience that I went through when I was launching the school. It was like there was a force inside of me that was not Victoria. It was like it was like it was like I was channeling some archetypal energies that were so powerful and so strong that I almost I thought they were me. I thought that I was invincible in this when I was running these energies, because my energy became bigger than me. It became bigger than this body, and I was able to do things that I didn't like, that I wouldn't be able to do in the smallness of who I am as a human being, and the confidence that would come over me to be able to like share myself with the world was like something I didn't even know was inside of me. And so then I started to almost believe that was me. And that was when I started to have to work with transmutation energy of recognizing, okay, so my personal heart and this body needs different things to what this big energy needs. And actually, like, I would work like 14-hour days. I'd see so many clients, and I would I was really like overpowering the physical body and also like my own personal heart. Like for me, like I was like so hungry to learn about this energy that was moving through me. And it was almost like that archetypal energy was actually pulling me forward to start this movement that I was working with around self-pleasure, and this idea that women could be so deeply empowered. It was all just like, it's not that it wasn't in my personal heart, but the energy and the reserves that I was calling for from this energy that I was channeling was really what gave me the power to just do it in such a full-on way and really disregard anything else that I needed. And like, I would forget to eat. I would forget to, like, I wouldn't even like have my own personal desires. I just wanted this movement so deeply, so badly, that it would just power me forward. And so that process of me recognizing that, to let that through and keep returning to me and returning to my empty center and coming back to my womb and knowing my womb without any energies that are moving through me and archetypal energies moving through me, was a really potent experience of recognizing that I could choose exactly what I needed, and I could actually have what I required for my body, for my health, for my heart. Like all of that was like a really big, beautiful initiation for me through that process. Another kind of woman that I work with around transmutation is when women that are perhaps struggling with open relating, or they're even just having the struggle of when they make love with any man, that they have the experience of like taking on his energy and not knowing what to do with it, or feeling slightly disempowered the day after, or or sometimes with that open relating piece, there's this nuance around like when a man that you are having regular sex with goes to have sex with another woman, and then he comes back and makes love with you. And I've had this experience with myself. It's like I'm dynamicing with the energy of that woman through my partner's penis. And it's this experience of like, okay, so I'm now working with that energy as well. And so this was a really big initiation for me of transmutation, of recognizing like when that energy was coming towards me and I was feeling like her energy, the female's energy, coming into my energy field through him. It was a real process of recognizing how to like let that go and actually allow that to move through me, and for me not to get stuck in it, or not to feel like I had to process it or be with her stuff in that way. And it's such an edgy topic to talk about, but it was very real for me in that time. And I actually didn't believe in this stuff before I had the physical experience myself. Um, people talk a lot around like entities and things like that in the spiritual community. And for me, that has always been an experience of like an energy that feels bigger than us that we cannot integrate. And so we project it to be outside of ourselves, when in my understanding of the world, we are everything. And so, but there was a recognition for me in that moment of like, yes, I am everything, and yes, I can transmute this energy, but recognizing and really having a strong felt sense that this was her energy, not my energy, not his energy, and really getting that and really knowing that as I was journeying through it. And one particular woman that I had this sort of metamor experience with had a lot of dark energy that she was moving through in her own experience of life. And, thank God I was actually able to have a really beautiful conversation with this woman about that experience. And she was able to bring me, like her deepest truth around that. She's like, yeah, like there are dark energies that move me, and move with me in this experience. And so I was able to go, oh, well, I loved her honesty in that, and I was able to actually allow me to go to recognize the deeper truth that I was feeling inside of my body. It wasn't just me making something up in my mind. It was a real physical experience I was having. So I started to work with that, started to move that energy through, and started to just feel like this process of like digestion. And that's how I would word it. So a lot of when these bigger energies come into our space, it can be very easy to go up into the mind and start to stir them up through the mind and be like, and this is wrong, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. All that kind of stuff comes into the mind. But actually when we start to work through the womb space, what we're journeying with is the capacity to look beyond what's right and wrong, good and bad, and come into that expression of the recognition of this is an energy that's here to be transmuted. So it's like, oh, it's not serving me, basically. That's really like, that's the bottom line of it. So, okay, this is not required for me. This is not mine to process. And that's, for me, the difference between processing, which happens through the mind, and digestion that happens through the lower parts of the body. It's like, okay, I'm letting that go. I'm letting that move through. And I feel like a gratitude for knowing that energy. And I also feel like the knowing of that's not my path in this lifetime to journey with those energies. It's just not where I'm best served in the world. So yeah, that was a big process of me of really learning the power of transmutation. And I share a lot with my clients about the embodiment processes that I do with that experience of how I let go of that. The other So I think the women that I see that most benefit from learning about transmutation, they are women that have that experience of sleeping with people and feeling like they're bogged down by energy, people that get stuck in the mind over the body, um, women that feel perhaps their purpose work is like taking over their life, and that they are like being not used by it, but like they're missing out on their own personal desires. So I see a lot of women in the purpose realms, and they are so captivated by their purpose, and they really like all their time and energy is used up by that. And what happens often is that they forget their own personal desires, or they don't have access to their own personal desires. And sometimes the process is really just reintegrating their own personal desires. And for this, I see a lot of women that maybe do want a partner that don't have a partner, or maybe do want a baby that don't have a baby. It's like, and recognizing that capacity. So the sort of descent I see through this is like, okay, I'm opening up my body to different powerful energies. And then the second piece is like, I'm learning to transmute what doesn't serve me, and let go of things that don't work for me. Recognize who I deeply am beyond the capacity to bring through any energies. And then the final one is gestation. And like gestation, that comes from the word genere, which is about carrying, holding. And for me, this is the process of learning to contain energy, and learning to, when we receive, like I've had a lot of like lovers or transmissions and experiences in my life. And when they've entered into my space, it's like, okay, transmuting what's not for me, letting go of some of the bullshit. And then there's like the gold that's actually inside of that, which is skills, which is, like when your cells are able to receive data that can get beyond the mind of what's right and wrong, good and bad, and all those ideas. It's like you actually can receive something on a cellular level, and that's where embodiment takes place. So like a lot of the skill sets that we want to learn, especially in leadership, are around like speaking, or leading, or facilitating, or learning to be good with money. So like one of the types of women that I work with when I'm working with gestation is women that have the experience of money falling through their fingertips, because they're not holding on, they're not knowing how to contain and to like hold energy. And this gestation superpower is all about sustaining. it's about sustaining life. So like sometimes women come to me when they're experiencing miscarriage a lot, and like not just like a one miscarriage, one or two things that happens once, because the body does need to transmute and let go of children sometimes when they're not forming well in the body. But what we're talking about is when there's a repeated cycle of miscarriage and the body is actually just letting go too quickly and doesn't actually know how to hold and gestate. And so what we're learning to do then is actually contain energy. And the power of containing energy means that you are, if you start a movement through these big energies that are coming through you, or you start leading something powerful, you're able to actually sustain that. And it doesn't just like, you don't need to just burn it all down every week, it's like, or, you don't need to just like, if you want to get pregnant, you're able to hold on to that child. Or if you're wanting a long-term partnership, you're able to like really stay with that experience of like, okay, I'm choosing to step into this experience of having a beloved, and I'm really able to just hold and stay through the process really of like when a union is really powerful, there's not a lot to dynamic with, there's not a lot of drama, there's not a lot of um like the dynamics that you experience through dating. And I've actually had so many girlfriends and clients say to me that it's boring when they have the experience of that. And I actually feel like that is a gestation issue. When we have the experience of like it's boring if it's not dramatic, what we're really working with is that inability just to be in the holding, be in sustaining energy. And ultimately, I guess my deepest desire is to help women, leaders, especially women of the feminine arts, learn to do this gestating, sustaining, energetic. And because I feel like there's so many women that have learned how to channel these huge, big energies, but what happens when they actually learn to sustain that and hold that and see something through? Because ultimately, it's like the longer these beautiful feminine art projects are able to sustain, the more power they can have in the world, the more legitimacy, the more they can grow. And like the ideas and these kind of new witchy groups that are coming up into the world, it's like they're so young, and and we're really at this forefront of like the last 10 years, we're really starting to see women's groups really start to take hold in the world. And I'm excited for what's going to happen when those ideas are lived through people over and over again in a really life-giving, beautiful way. And that's part of really, I guess, why I've started to sort of track these superpowers of the womb and like to see where the weaker points of the womb are for individual women and how they can sort of grow into really owning the three powerful superpowers that I've tracked inside of this experience. So yeah, that's a little bit around like those three different superpowers of shapeshifting with the Shakti and transmutation and then gestation. Like I've sort of spoken to the women that come to learn more about the gestation. I think that's kind of covered everything that I wanted to share, but I'm sure there'll be more when I turn the camera off. Please do ask questions because I do feel quite inspired by this topic right now, and I feel like I could dive in a little layer deeper and really speak to some examples that I've seen through myself, through clients, through different people. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. Please comment, please like, and please follow us on whatever streaming channel you do, whether that's YouTube or Spotify or anywhere else. And yeah, I look forward to recording another episode. Thank you.